you know, I don't have the words to really describe this movie and really how to talk about it. It's a lot of stuff goes on. It's very like all over the place. But at least the characters is one of the best things about the movie to me. And on this episode we breakdowns, we're going to review 2018's Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. And before I get started, if there's a review you want me to do, let me know. Please put in the comment section below and I'll get to it as best I can. Also Patreon.com/Ali Zakka for $2 a month. You get the cut in front of everybody. You get charity action, charity reviews, and much more content out there on the Patreon. But now, let's go ahead and get in 2018's Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. And I'm getting this out before the new one comes out on April 15th. I'm going to go watch that one since I've been involved in the Harry Potter world. And this movie I'd never seen ever in my life, like the first one with the Fantastic Beasts series. And what's the story about? Well, the story is about Newt Scamander, who's getting pulled back into a whole nother situation to go find Credence in Paris. And he's looking for, Newt is looking for Tina, who's also looking for Credence, and everybody else is looking for Credence, and Grindelwald's looking for Credence. So pretty much it's a search for Credence, and they're getting Newt, who is somebody who tracks down fantastic beasts and creatures to search down a guy who uses not obscurity, I think the name of the thing is called, but like wherever the parasite attaches to the host that puts it. In the first movie said it kills people after a certain age. You can't become an adult with this obscurus, what it is, the obscurus parasite, but yet Credence is able to control it, and he's also alive at the end. He died in the end of the first movie, and he's back alive in the end of the second movie, or in the second movie starting off. And this movie has a lot of questions for things that happen. Things just happen for no reason. And it just seemed like a movie they were just putting out there to get to the next one. Because it was all over the place as far as storyline goes. But as far as acting and CGI and soundtrack in this movie, it's pretty good. Like, I enjoyed the soundtrack in this movie. Matter of fact, the soundtrack, or in the final part of the movie where you have Grindelwald versus everybody else, it was pretty dope. I was enjoying the soundtrack. The actors and actresses in this movie are doing a good job. Freaking Raymond, who does, I probably said his name wrong. I probably said his name wrong there. I'll say it correctly when I get to characters. I'm just going on top of my head here. But Raymond, when he is being Newt and making Newt seem like an awkward character who can't really look people in the eye. He does in the first movie, but in the second one it really stood out to me because he's having more conversations with people. So him not looking people in the eye, kind of looking down, or find a hard time to express to Tina how his feelings are, I thought was great. The acting that Ed gives, I believe it's Ed is his name too. Matter of fact, let me just look it up real quick. Eddie Raymond, the acting that Eddie Raymond and the portrayal he gives to Newt, phenomenal. I think the acting in this movie is great. Storyline in this movie is not the best thing. Like, it is where the movie suffers the most. So let's go ahead and get into the things I like, which I kind of went over that a little bit. But yes, the soundtrack in this movie, I really enjoy the soundtrack in this movie. I enjoy the CGI in this movie. And I enjoy the cast and characters as well, even though some of them don't need to be in this movie, don't need to come into this movie, but they do. They appear. Like, one of my favorite characters is Jacob. Jacob Kowalski is literally my favorite character in this movie, but technically he doesn't need to be there. He's just here because people enjoyed him in the first movie so much. It's like, let's find a way to bring him back. His story wrapped up at the end of the first movie. He didn't need to be here, but yet here he is. I enjoyed him as a character. He's still the same dude in the first movie he is in the second movie, just not as much screen time. And Newt is the same character from the first movie and the second movie, but he kind of gets dragged into this because Newt, for the most part, doesn't want to be here. He does not want to be in this movie at all, but yet here he is. So his character, the characters are something I love. The music I love, the CGI, the animation in this movie I love, and the setting of everything, the world building I thought was pretty cool. And the things I don't like. characters popping up out of nowhere, things happening for no reason. Storyline really is what hurts this movie the most. It's not the best story when it comes to being consistent throughout the whole movie. So everybody's looking for Credence, right? Everybody's going after Credence. Credence is in Paris. That's where we're going for, right? One guy is looking for Credence to kill him. He ends up finding Tina, locks Tina up. How does Tina get locked up? We don't know. She get locked up off screen. Newt and Jacob finds her, and they get locked up too. Get out. The dude has a parasite in him all of a sudden, so they get the parasite out. Where the parasite come from? It was in the sewer, so the parasite's in the sewer. Okay, like there's a lot of exposition talking about things that explain stuff, and you're just like, show it. Don't tell us. Show it. This is a movie. Show us how they got here. Show us how this happened. In the tomb of Lestrange, there's a giant anti-wizard meeting with Grindelwald, and he's having everybody together, and he's saying, you know, if we let the non-magical people take over and continue doing what they're doing, there'll be destruction going on, and we'll be caught in their battle. And he shows like World War II happening and all this stuff, but all this is happening into a room in a tomb that just opened up a door that Jacob found. How did Jacob find it? I don't know. He just found it, and it opened the door up, and here they are to the next spot. At the moments before that, you had the Lestrange family talking about their origin story, and that Credence is now Lestrange because Lita Lestrange killed the baby that must have been Credence, and Credence is just some other guy who doesn't know who he is as an orphan. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And Newt, Newt is literally in the background just watching this play out like we are, and we're just like, okay. Like the plot twist in this movie didn't need to happen. Like I was like, what's the point of that plot twist? Why that plot twist is there? And before that, how they got to the tomb, they literally teleported there on the back of a mystical beast from China, a Chinese mystical beast, on the back of this Chinese mystical beast, after fighting a bunch of mystical cats that didn't need to happen. Literally, Newt said, they won't attack you unless you attack them. And Lita, for some reason, who is a police officer, a magical police officer, along with Tina, first reaction was to shoot the mystical cats. Why? They was walking up to her. The old lady brought the mystical cats up because the old lady felt like they're intruders. You know, Lestrange, the one person who's legit, so she should know who Lestrange is, and she should recognize who Tina is. But whatever, they're in Paris, not London. Whatever. But anyway, Lita decided to shoot first, and you're just like, why? And I literally watching the scene like this scene is literally here to inject action into this movie, because really, for the most part, this movie is a really dry movie when it comes to action or anything. Like it's not really much going on besides the circus scene, the first opening scene, and then from there there's a lot of talking, exposition points, not really much happening, not really much going on, not really much really relevant to the story. You have Grindelwald who's showing how he's a jerk and an evil person, but at the same time talking about Credence will come to me, and then Grindelwald approaches Credence. So what's the whole Credence come to me on his own? Whatever. Like, it's mostly a drier movie. Like really, I didn't get peeped into it or piped up until the third act, where Grindelwald is now like fighting everybody, and then you have this giant MCU galactic city destroying battle with dragons, and you're just like, how did we get here? Because Grindelwald's flames were just flames, fire flames, blue fire flames, like Zula from Last Airbender. Then all of a sudden those fire flames turn to a giant fire blue dragon, and there's two blue dragons that Newt and his brother has to stop the fire dragon from destroying Paris, but they're destroying the whole tomb yard, the graveyard. And I'm just like, how did we get here? How did we get here? So there's a lot of stuff happening in this movie. It's all over the place, but I still enjoyed the movie. It wasn't like it was super horrible that I was checked out from beginning to end. I was invested into it, but I fell out of it because a lot of part was just like exposition talk, and just it's not a good sequel to the Fantastic Beasts series. It's all over the place, and you go back and watch it, the plot holes are there left and right, but it's fine. It's a fine movie. The acting and music score and the CGI what really holds this movie up, because you take those three pieces out, to me, it really falls on its face a little bit. This movie does. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the director, acting, cast. This movie is PG-13, 2 hours and 14 minutes. It can tell the 18, like I said. The director is David Yates. Writer is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, this is her story. This is how she written it. Like, there's nobody editing this but her. Like, she's the writer of it. She pretty much created, like, everything about this and how it will be played out. You have a budget of $200 million estimate, and it grossed worldwide $654 million. So it got its money back. As far as the cast go, you have Eddie Redmayne, who plays Newt Scamander, which I think Eddie's does a great job being Newt. He makes Newt seem awkward, seems like to know how to talk to people. Like, he really, Newt is somebody who finds the most enjoyment in not being around people. He enjoys being around the beast. And matter of fact, anytime Newt has to capture a beast and do all these things to mimic a beast movements, to like get the beast to recognize him almost as an equal, I loved it. Like, in this movie, he's facing the mystical Chinese creature, and he is like doing the things to get the creature's attention, and then like cuddling with the creature. Hold up, I love it. I want more of that. Like, the first movie when he's doing that kind of stuff, and this movie is amazing. Like, I get behind that. That stuff works for me. Like, seeing, because it's unique. You don't see that in other movies. You don't see other movies where like the animal tamer or the person who capture the animals, like mimicking the things they do to get them to recognize them and catching their attention in order to capture them. Kind of like Pokemon, but more of a better way to capture Pokemon. I love it. I love it. Catherine Waterston, who plays Tina. I thought Catherine did a good job being Tina. Tina was the same character from the first movie. She didn't really get much of a development in this movie. She's pretty much like focused on finding Credence and kind of upset at Newt for being engaged, but Newt's like, it wasn't me, it was a mistake in paper, which, why didn't you just write him? Whatever. But Newt found a way to get to hold of Tina, because Newt's main reason this movie is to find Tina, to kind of tell her that, hey, the paper's wrong, I still like you, I'm in love with you, kind of thing. That was like Newt's goal in this movie. That's how he got wrapped up in all this. Because in reality, he wasn't going to be away. He was going to be away from this movie. He didn't want to go to Paris. He was going to sit in his own place, do his own thing with his creatures, and didn't realize that Tina thinks that he's getting married to Lita. He's like, no, I'm not getting married to Lita. That's a mistake. My brother is. Let me go tell her. She's in Paris. Let me go tell her. How did he find out that Tina was in Paris? Because Queenie and Jacob shows up. Jacob, who memory never was wiped away. He only has good memories, so he didn't have any bad memories, which means there's a lot more other non-magical people walking around who remember the events in New York because they didn't have bad memories of it. It's just like, oh, that happened. But anyway, Jacob and Queenie, who are together, they show up in Newt's place. Don't know how they got there, but they show up there. And Queenie has put a cast on Jacob, which causes Newt to reveal that. Newt frees Jacob. Jacob and Queenie gets an argument. Queenie goes to find Tina, and then Jacob goes to find Queenie, and Newt goes to find Tina. That's how that all happens. That's literally how that happened. I did not make that up. That is what it is. So that goes on there, but Tina's still the intense, strong character she is. She's kind of like about her own business, and Newt and her has a moment. I thought Catherine did a good job. Dan Fogler, who plays Jacob, I thought he's great. He is the best thing in this movie still, and just a great character. I don't know what to say about him. Like, other than that, he was there to I guess, push Queenie towards the dark side, because Queenie wants to get married to Jacob, and Jacob's like, I can't get married to you because we know if we get married, we get caught, you'll get in trouble for it. He's like, I can't lose you. And then he calls her crazy, and Queenie's like, how dare you call me crazy? So I'm gonna go work with Grindelwald, because Grindelwald's gonna get us the ability to get married openly. You know, Grindelwald has showed that he's willing to kill people. He's not a good guy, but Queenie's like, all right, I'm just gonna go with you anyway. So that's what Jacob's really there for. And then Queenie, who is played by Alison Sodol. Queenie is played by Alison Sodol. She was fine. Like, Queenie is still a good character from the first movie, but as far as the writing for Queenie in this movie, it wasn't as solid. It wasn't as good. Literally, Queenie became one-track minded. Like, I am upset. I want to marry Jacob. I can't do it, so I'm going to go ahead and join the bad guys because he promised me that he will allow us to get married. You know, Grindelwald, like I said before, is willing to kill people in this movie. He has killed people off that movie. Even if you're loyal to him, he's killing you. He threw his lizard out the carriage to begin the movie. He's not a good guy, and Queenie knows this. She's, matter of fact, about to fight him when she first sees him, and he talks her down. And I don't care, they say, oh, he's a very persuasive talker. His actions shows this. He's not doing this for the side of good. He is doing this because he's a bad guy. Queenie knows this. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, speaking of Grindelwald, who is played by Johnny Depp, just your generic villain at this point. Like, I'm gonna conquer the world, I'm a super bad guy, I'm super powerful, and Johnny Depp does a good job. It's just a generic villain, has a big action piece at the beginning of the movie, action piece at the end of the movie, there's this convincing conversation to everybody. The police, the magical police, falls right into it. They make themselves look like idiots, and yeah, man, like, I don't know what to say. Like, Johnny Depp did a good job, but the writing for Grindelwald is just basic. Ezra Miller, who plays Credence. I still don't care about Credence, man. I do not care about him. Like, I think what makes the first movie so great because you have Newt and his journey of capturing the beast, and the B plot, like I said, wasn't as great to me. In this movie, that B plot is the focal of this movie. The B plot is down to A plot, and it's just like, all right, it's kind of interesting to figure out who Credence's backstory is, but then you get this whole crazy backstory about how Papa Lestrange took over Lita's mother, who I thought Lita was dead, by the way, but you get this whole story that really just throws Credence into it that he didn't really need to be in, but it's like, oh, well, we need to figure out how to get Credence in this, so let's just throw him in there. Who's Credence? We don't know to the very end of the movie, but you're like, okay, sure. So we thought Credence was a guy named Clovis Lestrange, but in reality, he's not Lestrange at all. He is a Dumbledore. Because, yeah, man, why not? But Ezra Miller playing Credence was fine. It's just a character of Credence was like, eh. And then you have Claudia Kim, who played Nagini. I thought it was neat that Nagini was in this movie. It doesn't make sense that she's the snake that's with, you know, good old Voldemort in the earlier movies, but she's apparently in this movie and she becomes a snake for the rest of her life because the circus man said it, but in reality she's a human first, so they can transform to a snake, and apparently she just never comes back out of the snake transformation. She just stays a snake. Well, I don't know. I thought Claudia Kim, who played Nagini, I thought she did fine. She was on the screen majority of the part of the movie. Jude Law, who played Dumbledore, I thought Jude Law was good. He gets a little backstory to everything, and he was kind of there. Like, he ended up being the reason why Newt went to New York, and then he tried to get Newt to get into the story, and Newt was like, I'm not trying to be about this story. But Dumbledore and Grindelwald has a backstory that this movie is pretty much leading to, that her backstory is, and everything that happens between those two. But really, he's just kind of done more exposition in this movie. I thought Jude Law did a good job being Dumbledore. Zoe Kravitz, who played Lita Lestrange. It was cool seeing Zoe Kravitz on screen. I thought Lita was dead in the first movie, but apparently she's not. And yeah, she's here. And she's getting married to Newt's brother. And she also dies in this movie. For what reason? I don't know. She didn't have to die because everybody still escaped. Everybody still escaped because people can teleport. You can teleport anytime out of this movie. I know some people try to teleport in the fire caught them, but literally, Grindelwald didn't kill out any main characters in this movie. He, matter of fact, let all the main people survive except for Lita, who pretended to join Grindelwald, and then she tried to attack him. Grindelwald's like, huh, your move, you lost, you suck. Like, I don't think she had to die, but whatever. I don't. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why did Lita die? But Lita was in this movie and she was supposed to be part of a love triangle between, I guess, a love square, but between Tina and Newt. But she couldn't confess her love to Newt because Newt wouldn't return her love back, and Newt and Lita had a thing, but Newt wasn't really into Lita, I guess, but he kind of was. So Lita was like, screw it, if you don't want to marry me, I'll marry your brother. I don't know, man. The story for that is not the solid story either. And then last but not least, Thaddeus Scamander, who was played by Colin Turner, is Newt's older brother, and I thought he did a good job. He was kind of a jerk character, but he's not really a jerk character. He just wants his brother to do what he wants him to do, and Newt's like, I want to do my own thing, so they kind of at odds at each other, because Newt's more carefree, and Theseus is more of a like, hey, I want to do things by the book, and I'm a police officer as well. I want to do things by the book, and my free-spirited brother over there, he needs to join us and it'd be better for him, kind of thing. And he's getting married to Newt's ex-love interest, which is Lita, who's getting married to Theseus for, don't really know why. They never explain it, it just happens. It's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie for no reason that just doesn't make sense at all. And then the last person I want to talk about is Arnold Guzman, who plays by Connell John. He plays Arnold, and he's there in the movie. He gives plot points, and that's about it. That's pretty much the cast of this movie. It's a lot of stuff that goes on. A lot of people in this movie that just there for the most part, and there to give plot points and go on to the next part of the movie. Any other thoughts? Not really. Like, I would say this. The third act was the best part of the movie that really intrigued me. The rest of the movie, the first hour and 30 minutes of the movie really didn't drag me in. It was really that third act that was like, okay, I'm more invested into it. But this whole time of us getting to who Credence is, everybody talking about we need to get Credence, who's Obscurus. But now apparently he's a Dumbledore because why not? It really just, this movie's all over the place. But the acting, the CGI, the camera work is standard, but the camera work is fine. Like, it doesn't do anything too much to throw you off. The acting, the CGI, the characters are the best part of this movie. The soundtrack is the best part of this movie. But the storyline is just all over the place, and that's what hurts this movie a lot for me. Is this a Friday night movie? Nah, I don't think this is a Friday night movie because everyone get lost. Everybody's not going to really care. You're just going to find yourself getting bored and move on to the next one. So, not a Friday night movie, but maybe a Saturday morning, Saturday evening, Sunday movie kind of thing. Grading time. I'm going to grade Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. I'm going to grade this movie a C-, 70%. It gets 70% for me, a C-. It's not the worst movie out there, but it's not the best movie out there. The first movie is way better movie, more consistent story, simple. This movie's all over the place, doing too much stuff and trying to wrap all these things because we need to get a third one movie out, so we need to get everything set in place for the third one. And it just really, like, the B plot that I didn't care about in the first one, that didn't really attach to me in the first one, it didn't do it any better in this movie. Like, you had the B plot as the A part in this movie, as who is Credence and what Credence is about and the Obscurus thing, and then just like we kind of forget about that to bring up this whole Grindelwald thing that they have at the end of the movie that didn't really have to do anything with this movie. You could take the Grindelwald thing out of the movie and just have it about Credence, and then Credence goes crazy again. Maybe Grindelwald shows up and be like, Credence, I can help you. And Credence like, sure, save me, because everybody else who tries to save me don't really want to help me. They want to kill me. Like, that whole storyline could have been done a lot better. And this whole getting things happening for no reason. The old man's like, I spent 200 years since I've seen action. But yeah, he knows exactly how to show up and knows exactly how to point the ground to the wand, put the wand to the ground, and everybody says a word. Like, when they explained this move, they didn't. He just said, point it to the ground. There's a lot of plot points in this movie and plot holes in this movie that just happens that don't make sense to me. Like, how did he know to point the wand to the ground to make the mystical thing stop the blue dragon. How they know that? He didn't explain that. Why Little Lestrange shooting cats that turns into multiple cats that fights a giant mystical Chinese creature? Why is that there? Just because we need action in this movie? We didn't need it. That didn't need to happen. We could have teleported to the tomb, and then Cornell sees Jacob and like stick the wand at him, but then all of a sudden cut back to the scene and there is Credence and Nagini. Where did they come from? I know they was told to go there, but where did they come from? People just appear in this movie. The writing in this movie is not the strongest, but the acting, the CGI, the color, like the color's nice too. Acting, CGI, and soundtrack in this movie is really solid. Yeah, I just went off on a rant there. I really did. Yeah, this movie's a C minus. It's a 70% out of you know. It's a C minus out of 100, out of A, you know, A through F. It's a 70% C minus. It's like I said, before I go on this rant again, the movie's all over the place, but the main gist of it, the story is just what really hurts this movie. But it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, and I think other people will just be okay with this movie. Let's see here. IMDb gives this movie a 6.5 out of 10. That's a D. That's a D. Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie a 36% out of 100, which that's a F. The critics, or that's the critics version. The fan version of Rotten Tomatoes, they give this movie a 54%. That is an F as well. And the Metacritic gives it a 52%. That's an F. I'm more aligned with IMDb. I'm giving it a C minus. It's not yet a D movie. To me, it's fine. The third act would really say this movie, like the third act was dry, this movie probably would have been a D. But and then the characters, and like I said, the cast are doing a great job. They're doing their hardest here. The music is solid and the CGI is solid. So it's a C minus, 70%. If you guys seen The Fantastic Beasts and The Crimes of Grindelwald, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below. Other than that, see you guys on the next episode of Movie Breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all. And keep being awesome.